Hello, everybody. I'm Julie Altemus with Real Producers Magazine, and we are live in Colleyville, Studio USA. And today we have with us Betty Fish.
Hi.
I am so happy to have you, Betty. She's a top 1%, 1 to 2%, actually top 500 agent in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So, Betty, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And sharing your story. I got the beautiful privilege of meeting you probably a year ago, I think. Yeah. And so I've interviewed, I don't know, somewhere over 800 people. Wow. And there's just been some standouts along the way. I love them all. Actually, I tell the story that I've met one person out of the 800 that I didn't like. That's pretty good. Only one.
That's really good.
That's really good.
That's good odds.
But then there's other people that are just standouts, and you're one of those standouts for me anyway.
Well,
so just a beautiful person. So I would love it. You know, every day I meet people, and sometimes I get to do the privilege of calling somebody, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're calling me!" And it's been on my dream board, and I've wanted to do this for so long, and I can't believe you're calling me, and I made it, and I can't believe it, and they're all emotional on the phone. But you might not know this statistic, I don't remember, but there's 34,000 licensed active agents, and there's like 60,000 that are licensed, but not all of them are active. And so obviously people have their real estate license for different reasons. Not everybody has the same goal to be in the top 1 to 2%, but you're in the top 2,000 in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So that means that you're doing something right. And so I would love it if you would just share with the audience a little bit about your real estate journey, because you didn't start off in life, right, thinking you were going to do real estate. And in fact, I can't wait for you to share this. You are sitting here just freshly off of a worship set for the last 2 hours at your church. And so I know that you volunteer to do that on Wednesdays. And so we can get into that in a minute. But I'm going to use a word that's not a real word. Like she's all Godded up right now. She's all full of, God and the Lord and everything else. So, and a glowing face. And when you're just sitting there, well, no, you weren't sitting, but just being in the presence of worship for 2 hours, that's pretty amazing. So, but anyway, I would love it if you would share with the audience a little bit about your journey. Where did you start off in life, and how in the world did you get into real estate?
Yeah, it's so funny. I tell people, I feel like a lot of realtors, they don't start out. It's not like you graduate high school and you're like, I want to be a realtor. It kind of, for so many, they stumble upon it. Some of it's because it's in the family and, you have an interest. But for me, I have a wild, wild intro to it. I was actually working for a company, I was in college, and they did promotions and ads for JCPenney. It was their outlet division, and the owner of the company was young entrepreneur. He was brilliant, and he started this JCPenney company was kind of a cash cow, and he started investing in real estate in the TCU area. Mm-hmm. But I was working on the JCPenney side of the company. Met with the buyers, was traveling. Their headquarters was in Plano, Texas, and so was going there multiple times a week. And as the company was growing, he kind of moved out. I was assisting him. And then I basically started running the JCPenney company. And he really just dove into real estate. And then I had a wild turn of events, where I got a job offer out in LA, and it was crazy. It was Justin Bieber's mom's personal assistant. So wild story. I could write a book about it, but I ended up leaving the company to move to LA to do this job because I was like, I have to do this. This is so insane.
Once in a lifetime.
Who says no to that?
Odd opportunity.
Yeah. So I moved out there, and while I was there, my previous boss called me, and he's like, hey, I want you to move back here. I want you to buy the JCPenney company. I'm not invested in it. I want to continue to do real estate. And so the job was crazy and not sustainable, and I knew that it wasn't something that I could continue doing anyways. So I end up leaving there. We're still really good friends, love her. Mm-hmm. But I left there and moved back home to buy the JCPenney company. And we had all the paperwork ready to go. And then we were going to wait to sign in December. And I was terrified. I've never bought a company, but he was like,
now going to be a business owner.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And it really didn't make sense to say no to that because it was a very strong company. We were number one with the JCPenney outlet division. So we had the paperwork ready to sign in December, and in October, it was October 25th, all the JCPenney outlet stores closed.
Oh, dear.
And so thank God I didn't buy it. Talk about the grace of God.
Yes.
But I went from thinking I'm going to buy the company to closing it down. And at that point, I got a lot of job offers, but they were all from my suppliers, which was New York, New Jersey, and I was going to have to move again. And I didn't want to move again. And so my boss was like, hey, get your real estate license, move over to the real estate side of the company. He had grown it from when I started. I think he had 2 or 3 units to like 120 in 6 years. And so I prayed about it, and it was very clear. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move over. I loved the company. I loved the people. It was a little small business. And so I studied and got my real estate license. And then 6 days later, my boss was in the hospital with stage 4 brain cancer.
Wow.
And he fought that for about 18 months and ended up passing away at 35 years old.
Wow.
It was heartbreaking. During that time, we had so much rapport. I had worked for him, obviously on the other side of the company. And so he quickly made me vice president of the property management company. So he had built up a property management company with over 300 tenants in the TCU area, Fort Worth. And so I kind of when I say I got thrown in.
You did.
I got thrown in by fire. I didn't have the Keller Williams training and go to the courses and do your business planning. I mean, I jumped in. And it was really hard because he was fighting for his life, and then to go through him passing away, and all of that. But I felt such a calling and a purpose. And I was like, this isn't even about real estate. This is about being here for him and his wife and helping ease the load. And so long-term events, I ended up resigning after total was 10 years with the company between JCPenney and the real estate business. And I was like, okay, what is happening? I mean, it felt like the rug gets pulled out from under you, I'm supposed to buy this company, then I close it down, which I was thankful for that. And then I move over to real estate and promised all these things, and then walk through quite the tragedy. And in the middle of that, he sold some duplexes and some properties that he had. I got a lot of experience.
Did you have your license then?
I did. I got my license on December 20th of 2013, and he was in the hospital on December 26th.
Wow.
So 6 days later, and I was
Wow.
closing on my first house that next week. And so it was a whirlwind. But all that to say, I really didn't know what I was going to do. My resume was pretty impressive, when you could get vice president of a company. But I just wasn't sure exactly what direction I was going to go. I was like, do I go corporate? And I had done outside buying and selling, but I was pretty much in the property management world. And I helped my brother and kind of would do some stuff on the side, help a few people, friends and family buy and sell. But it wasn't I was a W-2 employee. I wasn't just the full commission. And so I was kind of giving myself a moment and to grieve. And I waited a couple months. I hung my license with a woman from my church. She was like, hey, I won't charge you anything while you're trying to figure out what you want to do. You can hang your license here. And I didn't want to let go of it. But in the meantime, I had a friend want to buy and sell. And then she referred me to someone who wanted to buy and sell. And then they referred me. And all of a sudden, I was like, I don't even feel like I'm working. And I loved it. I mean, I absolutely loved the process of helping people. I always say this, being in real estate, you're a bit of a therapist too, because you're dealing with so many emotions. You're dealing with so much stress. I mean, money is a huge stressor, but there's always different reasons why people are selling.
Sure.
And buying. And, sometimes they're walking through death or divorce or a job relocation, or they're growing their family, or they're empty nesters. And so you get to be a part of such a critical time in someone's life. And I just found so much purpose in it. And then it just kind of started snowballing from there. So I didn't even get the exact training that I would say in the beginning. I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? But I also had so much experience that I don't think I would have gotten had I not been kind of thrown in the fire, dealing with these investors. And then as my old boss was walking through the cancer treatments, just all of the buying and selling and transactions that, I never would have had an opportunity to be a part of. I got to do apartment complex. I mean, just stuff that most of the time you don't have that kind of opportunity when you're first getting started in the field.
No,
So
you really did take the fast track to learning. That was your Keller Williams education.
Yeah. So that's my wild ride into real estate. And really it's so funny because I never thought that I would do that, but I've seen so much of, oh my gosh, this whole time in my life, like God was kind of leading me in this direction.
Yes, the thread was always there.
Yeah.
And then it finally unfolded.
Yeah.
What was one of your favorite transactions?
Okay, this is a hard one. I can tell you my favorite, that's a horror story that I tell people where they're like, it's the worst showing that I've ever had. And basically I was representing the sellers. Some buyers wanted to see it and they weren't represented. And it was a fourplex and there were tenants in there. So you have to get 24-hour notice. And I used to do property management, so I'm well acquainted with how this works. So we got 24-hour notice, told the tenants, we're going to be coming by. And there was this one tenant that was very problematic. And he ended up being evicted actually because he was extremely I think there was some mental health issues. But I have these people I've never met and I'm trying to sell, right? And they're supposed to put their dogs away.
Oh dear.
And so I knock on the door, realtor, and I open up the door and it's a set of stairs and there's these two huge dogs bounding down and I'm like, oh, and I love dogs, but not everybody does. And some people are afraid of them. So I'm trying to, I'm so sorry, we get up the stairs and it is so dirty. I mean, there's hair everywhere, feces. I mean, it was disgusting. And I'm trying to imagine this thing with a fresh coat of paint, deep clean.
Trying to sell it.
I'm just trying to, because it did have so much potential, right? So I'm showing them the living room, the kitchen. It's just a 1-bed, 1-bath. And the bathroom door the light is off and the door is slightly open. And I go to push the door open and I turn the light on and the tenant is hiding behind the shower curtain.
Oh dear.
With the light off and the door slightly open. And I turn on the light, he pulls the shower curtain back and he's fully naked.
Oh, lovely.
Screaming at me. And I was like, ah! So I had 4 sets of keys in my hand because it's a fourplex. I drop all 4 sets of keys.
Oh, no.
And then I'm shaking. I'm on my hands and knees and I'm trying to get the keys. And there's this man. And it was horrific. There was hair everywhere. And then I'm leaving and I'm trying to be cool with the buyers. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I apologize. We let him know. And they're like, are you okay? I was like, no. It was 10 a.m. I was like, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I do this job. That's my funny horror story. He ended up later apologizing. I think he was on some medication, but I called the sellers. I was like, listen, I can't ever do that again. That was that was terrible. So that's my horror story. But as far as my favorite transaction, I just had the privilege of helping some of my dearest friends and family members. And when you can see people find their dream home and watch this is where our kids take their first steps. And, when you can watch what happens when people find a home and they really make it a home. And I've done some commercial as well. And commercial is cool because you're helping people with their dreams.
Sure.
But, starting a CrossFit gym or, whatever. But when I can help people start to finish and see later, because I stay in their lives, I stay connected, wow. And then you see the financial benefit, later on down the road. It's yes, this is why you buy real estate.
Yes.
I tell people when you're renting, you're putting your money in someone else's pocket, which is fine for a season, but if you can have your own asset, buying my first house was the best thing I ever did. Yes. And I was terrified. I was like, I don't know how to fix things. And it's you don't have to be a plumber. You don't have to be an electrician. You don't have to be a roofer. You need to know one, and you need to have someone educated that can guide you through the process. But it's one of the best things I've ever done. So I just feel very passionate about real estate in general. I think it's the best way to even have generational wealth. I mean, I've just seen so many things that come from it that, it's not really out there. You think, oh, I'm just buying a house, but it's so much more than that. And it's really important to have a buy a good one. 'Cause
Exactly.
There's some not good ones out there too.
Yes, yes. And then you can get in there and it could be a lot of money. So
a
it's
money
good for you
pit,
to,
and I've had that happen too. You know,
Yes.
there's pipes under the house that are cast iron, and they've been fine all these years.
And suddenly they're
Inspection comes
not.
back fine, and then it's a $50,000 hit. You know, so
Yikes.
my main thing is helping educate buyers on what to expect, because you don't know. You don't know what's coming 6 months down the road. Inspectors can only see so much in the 3 or 4 hours that they're there. But does it make sense financially, right? So at the right price, it might still make sense to buy a house with, you know, older pipes, but you just have to kind of know how to navigate through all of those hoops.
Yes,
So
of course, especially if it's going to be a big expense. Well, obviously, I know that you love real estate. You've been doing it for a while now and are super passionate about helping people, but there's a whole other side to you outside of real estate that you enjoy doing. And so I think it's important as entrepreneurs, and I know many people would agree out there in the entrepreneurial world, that there's only so much that we can give, there's only so much that we can serve, and then we have to fill our own teacups in some way. And so for everybody that looks a little bit different. So how about you? How does Betty get back to center and throw off the business cape and find herself at the end of the day when this job is a 24/7 job?
It is. And that's one of the hardest things I've had to learn over the real estate journey is how to set those boundaries and to be intentional with your time for yourself. And you mentioned my prayer set earlier. I'm involved at my church, and once a week, it's without fail from 12 to 2, once a week on a Wednesday. I take that time. My clients know I'm going to be out of pocket at this point. And I worship. And that is such a sweet, refreshing time. I am on stage, but it's just something that fills me up so much. And I also do try to make space and time. You have to, in this industry, you have to rest and you have to leave space for connection, not just with your clients, but obviously with family and friends. And so I try to carve out times during my week because you don't really have a day off.
True.
But I try to be intentional with not running myself too thin, and I learned the hard way because it can feel like you have to say yes to everything, and that's not true. And really learning how to set boundaries and appropriately be able to receive, and that fills you up so that you can give. And if you deplete yourself, if you till the soil all the time, it depletes the soil of its minerals.
Yes.
It's why we have to have a Sabbath or a rest. You have to have that time. And so I've learned to sort of carve that out. I'm really big, and working out is a very big thing for me to get my mind. It really helps me. Even if it's just a 30-minute walk or taking a workout class, it really helps me to not have my phone on me, put it down, center, pray. I'm intentional about my time with God. And I think that I've noticed that when I let some of those things slip, I'm not as good of a real estate agent, right? I'm a better agent when I've taken care of myself and when I've been able to give out and pour out to the most important connections in my life, right? Your family, your close, intimate connections. So I see new agents come out and I'm like, it's so easy to jump on that hustle bus.
Yes.
But I think also there's an energy attached to that people feel. And when you're grounded in God and in yourself, and you've taken time to breathe and rest and journal and, taking time for yourself, you really don't approach things with this energy of anxiety that I think people feel. And it brings more people to you. You know what I'm saying? There's an attraction that comes with that I've learned, and it's for your good. It's why, God had on the 7th day, he rested, right? There's a reason in life why there's a need for kind of stopping and pulling back. And real estate has its seasons as well. There's times that are more busy than others. And I try to not, when it gets a little bit slower, I try to let that be instead of because you can feel scarcity of, I don't have another deal coming. And I've learned to be the more that you just accept where you're at and you let it continues to build and build and grow. And
It'll just
I
happen.
used the word snowball earlier, and that's genuinely what happened with my business. And if you nurture your clients well, but you also take care of yourself well, I
Yes.
think it's a really beautiful fit.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what you mean. I have people say things to me sometimes about my, I guess, presence. Just, oh my goodness, you're so warm, you're this, you're that.
Peaceful,
Well, that's because I'm being very intentional about my time in the morning. And if I don't plug in to my morning and do the thing that I need to do just to recharge my batteries, because in this business, we have to be on a lot. And I'm on camera a lot, besides the fact that I'm interviewing people and speaking on stages. And I have to have my morning bathtub time and my hot cup of tea and my prayer time and all the things. And when I skip it, I get cranky.
Oh,
I don't know about you.
Yeah. And journal, I journal a lot. And it's a
Yes.
really good way to even, I think we perceive the world through we have an internal dialogue, right? And I always tell people, I'm like, that you'd be really shocked at how many stories you make up in your head in a day.
Sure.
Do you know who Brene Brown is?
I do.
Okay, she has this example, and I love it so much. She says, wife comes home, long, hard day. She's got stuff in her hands. The kids are going crazy. The husband's, sitting down, working on some stuff. She puts her stuff down. The husband, opens up the fridge, and he's like, oh, we don't have any turkey. And the wife is like, do you have a credit card? Do you have keys? And then all of a sudden they get in this, and he's like, why are you talking to me like that? And she says, if you can learn to pause and lean in and get curious with yourself of like, what was the story I made up in my head, right? And so she uses this example, and she turns to the husband. She says, if you can say, the story I just made up in my head right now is that I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad mom, I can't even get the grocery list together. If you can lean in and see that that was the story you made up, and then you can get curious with the other person, like, what did you mean by that? And he's like, I just meant that there's no turkey. And so often, if you don't take time to journal your bath, your coffee, your prayer, whatever, you react to your triggers and you don't emotionally regulate. And so your response is when, a seller, when you have the trials and tribulations that come with life and with real estate, you react in things. And I see agents do this all the time where they send horrible messages. They're angry, and it's like you're also helping other people. So you have to learn how to regulate yourself in this industry, I think, to be a good agent. But if you can learn how to sit, and when I journal, I can get some of that out, and I can go, what was that in me that felt, unworthy in that moment, or that felt devalued in that moment, and a lot of times if you get curious with yourself, you find the answer, and it really doesn't usually have much to do with the outside world or the people around you. Not saying that people don't affect each other, we affect each other every day, but you get triggered, and if you don't learn how to deal with it, it becomes a pattern and a habit, and then you have these responses and these reactions that I really feel like if you take time for yourself and get curious and learn yourself and to love yourself, and with God, like sit with these places of pain you've walked through in your life and your childhood, it's really amazing how it can change your day.
That's so
and
true.
then people will say, how you have this presence about you, because you do. You have. The first time I sat down with you, I was like, there's something so special about you. It really impacted me, just like our time together. And not everybody has that. So you can tell that you're grounded in your own self. You're a human being, but we all do that differently.
We do. Yeah, and if I don't get that time, I can be like,
you're like, oh,
what did you mean by there's no turkey in the refrigerator? And
we
get
all
triggered.
do it. We all
You
do
get
it.
triggered. Well, for all the people that are listening out there, you have obviously done something right in your career to be a part of the top 2,000. And so for all of the people that are inspired by what you've done, and other people, the other 1,999 agents that are in the top 2,000, a part of the Real Producers community, would you just mind sharing, what do you think helped you be as successful as you are. Now, I know you were just kind of thrown into the fire, and your former boss, you piggybacked a lot off of just what was on your plate.
Yeah.
But you could have failed after that point, and you didn't. And so for you, what has been some of the contributing factors that have kept you as successful as you've been over the years?
Yeah, I love that question. For me, I think mentorship, having people that you can pull from wisdom from, somebody older, further on down the line. The broker that I'm with was amazing, but I would also seek people out because we are supposed to help each other in this industry. And I think that if you can be a student and not walk in going, I know what I'm doing, and assume that, I can just Google it and figure it out. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we need each other.
We do.
And so I think having the humility to go, I really need some help, not necessarily with a deal. And you're always going to need help with a deal. There's things that pop up and people are like, well, I've never encountered this before. But I think just being intentional about having people speak into you. And I would do that not just in business, but like, hey, if you see something in me that needs a check, I want to know. I want to see it, and I want to work on it, and I want to grow, and I want to get better. And I think that having other professionals that have been willing to sit with me, especially first starting, and even now, other brokers, I love to just be like, how do you do it? What do you do? What's your model? Because it is a very challenging industry. Yes. And I think that another thing I would say to go along, it's sort of hand in hand, but is education. Like I try to keep education before me. The industry changes. We just went through a lawsuit this year.
Yes.
Interest rates. There was a global pandemic. I mean, there's no rule book for how crazy this real estate world is, but education, mentorship, and then I really do believe that my clients have been such a big contributor to my success because they have referred me, and I'm 100% referral based. And yes, I do a good job working with them, but I just feel like I have the best people around me, and I have. And that's been so beautiful to watch and see, like, how they have championed me along the way and told other people about me. But yeah, I would say those are 3 things that have really attributed to it, and really just trying to learn from your mistakes too. Like you're going to get it wrong. And when you do, own it, own it. I see agents try to pass it off. Oh, the lender and the title. I'm like, well, and if you can humbly go, I really messed up. Like, I'm so sorry. What can I do to make that right? That goes a really long way with people. And I think that's how you learn how to not continue to make the same mistake over and over. And so I think being able to be teachable and learn from your mistakes, and really, instead of seeing it as a failure, and being embarrassed, seeing it as growth. It's an opportunity for growth. And I say that all the time. Any challenge that comes your way is an opportunity for growth. And if you let it, it will be a very powerful source.
It's so true. I don't even remember what the number is, but I know that Thomas Edison attempted the light bulb 100 times or over 100 times. And each time that he didn't get it right, it wasn't a failure. It was one step toward doing the thing that was eventually going to become the light bulb.
Yes.
And here we are. And if he would have given up long ago. So we just keep perfecting our craft. I heard this morning, actually, I was listening, I think I was on social media, and a Tony Robbins video popped up, but he was talking about Stephen Curry. I'm not a big basketball person, but he was talking about Stephen Curry, and he was talking about how Stephen practices his 3-point shots 500 times a day. And I was thinking to myself, what do I do 500 times a day?
Yeah.
Nothing. I cannot think of anything that I do 500 times a day. And he practices that 500 times a day, times 7 days a week, times 365 days a year. And so he came up with this huge number about in a lifetime. Yeah. If I can remember my math right, I think it was like over 30,000 3-pointer shots or something like that. And so that's why he was saying the things that you practice on the outside are the things that happen internally as well, right? And so I was thinking, wow, just to put it in perspective about all the effort that goes into the outward things that we do. But it really starts with the inward work. That's what it was when you start with the inside work and you do the inside things and you do the things that you are supposed to be doing, that reflects on the outside with what you do on the inside.
And letting go of, what it looks like, right? Like if he keeps shooting and he keeps missing and, I think it was Walt Disney was turned down by like 49 banks. And then he finally, he kept going. I was like, would I have continued when I was turned down 49 times, rejected? But he kept going. And I think that is such a crucial part of success as a business owner and an entrepreneur is obviously you tweak and you don't do it. If you're doing it and it's not working, you change it, right? But to keep going and to learn what is best for you, because especially in this industry, it's not cookie cutter. I have a coworker at my brokerage and she works at a gym and most of her clients are her gym friends. And she has a whole niche with them and it's amazing. And she's learned to be like, this is who I am. And she's able to help people with real estate, but she also has this other passion. And it's really been beautiful to watch her do that. And I think if you can learn to be like, what is my thing what is my DNA on this earth that I'm supposed to deposit here? What am I, how am I going to leave this world with my impact, and learning who you are and then going, okay, I'm not going to just try to copy everybody else and do everything these other realtors are doing. I'm going to try to find my own thing that is me, and it translates really well with people because it's authentic and it's transparent and it's you, and you're not just checking off a list of boxes that people say to do. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's interesting, but keep going and learning from your mistakes instead of looking at them as, a failure. Yeah.
Mentorship is so good. I loved that, what you said. And that I just walked that out with in a spiritual context, because I was driving down the road recently and I was thinking, you know what? I want to do this, this, and this. And I very clearly heard in my heart, you need a mentor. Just like you have mentors in the business world and coaches in the business world, why do we not also have spiritual mentors? And some people do, but I never have. And I thought, I need one. I need to get one. And so immediately I start, pulling triggers like, hey, I need this. Hey, I need this, and whatever. And it comes together. But you surround yourself with the greatest people. And I forgot exactly how the saying goes, but look around you, the 5 people that are closest to you, and you look the most like them. And so whoever we hang out with and spend time with and hopefully get our mentorship from helps us be successful. So Betty, thank you for coming on the Real Producers Podcast today and sharing your story and your journey. You have a great Justin Bieber story, a great little story in the real estate industry and just having the success that she has. So everybody, until next time, I'm Julie Altemus with Real Producers Magazine, coming live to you in Colleyville, USA. And thank you again, Betty, for being on our show.